band, and a Mr. Rogers-style cardigan sweater. He hadn't washed his hair for a week, but had dyed it with strawberry Kool-Aid, which made his blonde locks look like they'd been matted with dried blood. Never before in the history of live television had a performer put so little care into his appearance or hygiene, or so it seemed. Kurt was a complicated, contradictory misanthrope, and what at times appeared to be an accidental revolution showed hints of careful orchestration. He professed in many interviews to detest the exposure he'd gotten on MTV, yet he repeatedly called his managers to complain that the network didn't play his videos nearly enough. He obsessively and compulsively planned every musical or career direction, writing ideas out in his journals years before he executed them. Yet, when he was bestowed with the honors he had sought, he acted as if it were an inconvenience to get out of bed. He was a man of imposing will, yet equally driven by a powerful self-hatred. Even those who knew him best felt that they knew him hardly at all. The happenings of that Sunday morning would attest to that. After finishing Saturday Night Live and skipping the cast party, explaining it was not his style, Kurt had given a 2-hour interview to a radio journalist, which finished at 4 in the morning. His working day was finally over, and by any standard, it had been exceptionally successful. He'd headlined Saturday Night Live, had seen his album hit #1, and Weird Al Yankovic had asked permission to do a parody of Teen Spirit. These events, taken together, surely marked the apogee of his short career, the kind of recognition most performers only dream of, and that Kurt himself had fantasized about as a teenager. Growing up in a small town in southwestern Washington state, Kurt had never missed an episode of Saturday Night Live, and had bragged to his friends in junior high school that one day he'd be a star. A decade later, he was the most celebrated figure in music. After just his second album, he was being hailed as the greatest songwriter of his generation. Only 2 years before, he had been turned down for a job cleaning dog kennels. But in the pre-dawn hours, Kurt felt neither vindication nor an urge to celebrate. If anything, the attention had increased his usual malaise. He felt physically ill, suffering from what he described as recurrent, burning, nauseous pain in his stomach, made worse by stress. Fame and success only seemed to make him feel worse. Kurt and his fiancée, Courtney Love, were the most talked-about couple in rock and roll, though some of that talk was about drug abuse. Kurt had always believed that recognition for his talent would cure the many emotional pains that marked his early life. Becoming successful had proven the folly of this and increased the shame he felt that his booming popularity coincided with an escalating drug habit. In his hotel room, in the early hours of the morning, Kurt had taken a small plastic baggie of China white heroin, prepared it for a syringe, and injected it into his arm. This in itself was not unusual, since Kurt had been doing heroin regularly for several months, with Love joining him in the 2 months they'd been a couple. But this particular night, as Courtney slept, Kurt had recklessly, or intentionally, used far more heroin than was safe. The overdose turned his skin an aqua-green hue, stopped his breathing, and made his muscles as stiff as coaxial cable. He slipped off the bed and landed face down in a pile of clothes, looking like a corpse, haphazardly discarded by a serial killer. It wasn't that he OD'd, Love recalled. It was that he was dead. If I hadn't woken up at 7, I don't know, maybe I sensed it. It was so fucked. It was sick and psycho. Love frantically began a resuscitation effort that would eventually become commonplace for her. She threw cold water on her fiancé and punched him in the solar plexus so as to make his lungs begin to move air. When her first actions didn't get a response, she went through the cycle again, like a determined paramedic working on a heart attack victim. Finally, after several minutes of effort, Courtney heard a gasp, signifying Kurt was breathing once again. She continued to revive him by splashing water on his face and moving his limbs. Within a few minutes, he was sitting up, talking, and though still very stoned, wearing a self-possessed smirk, almost as if he were proud of his feat. It was his first near-death overdose.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.